What is most bothersome to you, Erika D. Smith, as you sit and watch the landscape? You know, what is the thing that is concerning you the most about this nation?
Gosh, there's there's so many things. But I honestly, I think it's the amount of people who aren't paying attention and I know that not everybody, people work 3, 4 jobs, people have lives. But I see so much just because I am hyper informed, just because of what I do. And I see so many things happening, and I wish more people in the public actually paid attention to what was happening, and also, put a little bit more stock in understanding why things happen the way that they do. Like, I mean, just the number of people I know who, blame Biden for not passing, X, Y, and Z, initiative, not understanding the filibuster in Congress. I mean, like it, and, the way that we look at politics and we don't really understand why certain things don't get passed, why this person got elected, all of the whys and the understanding of the process, I think that are things that I wish more Americans knew. And I think it would make me feel a lot better about going into 2024, because I think that we'd have a public that was just more engaged and more aware of what's about to happen.
Talk about your path, Erika D. Smith, from Ohio, which right now is going through its own crisis. Oh, Lord. Do you have family there that have to drink out of the Ohio River?
Most of my family is north. So I grew up outside of Cleveland. So we are Lake Erie water, which is probably at some point just as bad. But the Ohio River, definitely, I know lots of people that are along, further south. And, it could be a potentially ecological disaster. I guess I say potentially because we don't know how big it is yet or what it looks like. But, it reminds me of Flint and all these other places of color, oftentimes, where there's ecological disasters. But yeah, I grew up outside of Cleveland and lived there for a while, worked in Akron, which is, most people know, is where LeBron James is from, and kind of slowly worked my way west. I was in Indiana and worked in Indianapolis when Mike Pence was governor. So that was not fun. And lived in Sacramento for a while and been in Los Angeles here since like about 2018. So been opinion writing and write about a lot about politics and social justice and racial justice issues, and tried to talk a lot about California and in the context of the U.S. and vice versa. So
why did you choose this as your field?
That's interesting. So I think a couple things. One, I really like to write. It's the one thing I thought I did really well. So I tried to find a profession that I could do that. And the other thing is I'm a huge procrastinator. And so one thing about journalism is if you don't meet deadlines, you don't get a paycheck. And so that is a big incentive for me to not be a procrastinator. And I'm also a bit of an introvert. And so having a job where I'm forced to talk to people is a good thing too. I think it's healthy for me. So probably those three things led me into this. And, it's a job where I basically get paid to learn things, which is, I think, great.
Same, by the way, 866, but clearly you're not I think journalism, it doesn't make you an extrovert, but it allows you to be more comfortable talking with people, because that's all you do is talk to people and interview them, and you're doing a masterful job. Being a columnist at the LA Times, and I'm saying this because, there's a lot right now, diversity and inclusion and all, with the check box. I came into the Daily News when they had just been sued for racism, which I didn't know. I'm sure I was a box checked. And then I was like, checkmate. But being in it, the responsibility to the community for you, not just to get it right, but to represent, because a lot of your columns are about race and the state of our union in that way. How important is that? And how do you navigate that space?
It's very important. I mean, I think just because of the still lack of diversity in our industry, I've never had a job where I wasn't looked upon as that person. Like, I when we have something in our paper or online that doesn't, whether I wrote it or not, but, people are like, this photo's awful or this headline's awful. Usually I get the call to go into our newsroom to bring it up. But, I think it's extremely important, particularly right now with everything going on in the country, to be a voice for the Black community. And it became even more important after, George Floyd. I think a lot of journalists, I think, who are people of color, really started to look inward a little bit of like, what do we stand for and what do we care about? And I think that that's always been true for me, but I think it's been even more so now in my current career in Los Angeles. And I also think it's just, it's all, but every, community in every city is a little bit different. And so to me, also understanding Los Angeles, which has its long and varied history, has been very important. So it's a bit of a learning curve. I try not to pretend to know anything that I don't. And I expect to get things wrong from time to time. And my sources, I let them know, but I think I'm definitely at a better spot now than I was when I first started writing here. And I've been fortunate enough to find several people, including my editor, who's lived here for a long time and kind of like can fact check me and keep me honest. But the funny thing, as I've learned, I'm 45, and the thing that I've learned the most is that my entire memory gap is probably the most between like 85 and like 95. And so there's all these things that happen in Los Angeles, like, the riots that I remember kind of, but I don't remember every single detail. So that's what I've learned. I'm the most dangerous because I think I know what I'm talking about and I don't. So it's been really interesting. But yeah, it's important. It's important to have people of color and in media today, now more than ever.
I wish more people would have that level of humility approaching, what they don't know, and still leaving grace to learn. Let's take a call. Erika's here. Erika D. Smith. You can follow her at Erika_D_Smith or at LA Times, and then add her there too, because she's a columnist. Bobby, Vancouver, Washington. Oh, okay. Hey, welcome to the Karen Hunter Show. Bobby.
Yeah.
Bobby.
Don Lemon is a talking head. He's not a journalist. Really, he should have his own talk show, which probably would bomb. But for him to make that comment about her out of her prime, it just shows his disdain for women. Am I right or am I wrong?
I wouldn't say that he has disdain for women. I would say he's dumb. And that's, I just think he's ill-equipped and not really up to par. Like he's not nimble enough intellectually to have the kind of conversations that he has, which is why when he's interviewing somebody about rape or being forced to perform fellatio, and he says, well, why didn't you just bite? Like there's been too many of these moments where keep them talking about, the next chef that's coming out, or the fashion, or housewife, get them talking about the entertainment stuff. Serious topics should not be on his plate. And maybe he couldn't sit on A View because I don't think he's smart enough to sit with Sunny and Whoopi and Joy and whoever else is up there, because these are lawyers and former teachers and people that have lived vast lives. And I think that's the other thing. I think for columnists like Erika, living a life, traveling, having read a lot of things. I don't even know that Don Lemon reads a lot. He doesn't seem to be somebody that reads a whole lot either, which, could fill in some of the intellectual gaps that he displays quite frequently. But yeah, Bobby, I don't agree with you completely, but yes, on him not being in that seat, I agree with. But it just speaks to producers and editors who like to check boxes. And as long as we have a Black person there, he's Black and he's getting, it's like all of the boxes checked. But is this person, because I don't care about your race or your gender or your sexual proclivities. I care about, can you get it right? Are you serving the people? Period. That should matter more. But in a newsroom like yours, where 4% of the people are Black, I think representation should matter as well, Erika. So thank you for doing the work. You're working on the next column. And, I wanted to ask you about Karen Bass as well, who's going to be mayor. She is mayor of Los Angeles. She's got an uphill battle, I think.
Yeah, very much so. And very in a couple of different ways. But I think, right now she's been focusing the earliest part of her term on homelessness, which is the topic in LA and in California that just, it overrides everything, or it gets involved in everything. And so she's really managed to get a lot of politicians on multiple levels, on the federal level, on the state level, local level, to really cooperate and do it really fast. It's actually been really impressive to watch because, it kind of puts to shame some of what I've seen before she came into office. But I mean, there seems to be momentum. I think the real challenge is going to be, she's gotten a number of encampments kind of cleared and people into temporary housing. But of course, the challenge here as elsewhere is, where do they go after that? And like, how fast can we get permanent housing? And that's really that's going to be the real challenge. Can she basically scale up? And I think that's kind of what I think I'm waiting to see. And I think a lot of people in the city are waiting to see whether this is actually going to work. But she's brought a new energy to the city, and I think people are happy that she is on the case.
Well, I'm happy that you're sitting in that seat. And as things develop in your backyard, I would love to have you back on to talk about whatever it is that you're working on and put perspective on the things that are happening in the state of California. Thank you for coming today.